Farm Small, Farm Smart Daily is part of the Modern Grower Podcast Network. Check out some of our other shows like Carrot Cash Flow, the Growing Microgreens Podcast, and Farm Small, Farm Smart. Learn more about the shows using the link below.
What's one takeaway that you want a listener or watcher to have when it comes to compost?
I would say that when you're using a compost, go out there and get the best compost you can get. Make compost at home. Realize that it is, in my opinion, and now I've been doing this for a long part of my life, 40 years of my life I've been doing this. It's, in my opinion, the most important thing that you can add or that you can do in terms of maintaining your garden. Good compost. And in my opinion, great compost, it's the home run. It's the grand slam. It makes all the difference in the world. And don't think, oh, this is expensive, because my grandmother used to say to me all the time, you get what you pay for. And she's pretty much right. I've learned over time that if I want something that's good, I generally buy the thing that's good. And usually it costs a little bit more than the next one or the next one down. But the one that's good is the one that lasts. And I've found that with my tools. I found that with, vehicles. I found that with tractors we bought. I've certainly found that with compost. I don't cheap out. I've learned my lesson, as we all have, I hope, in life. You learn that lesson, because when I cheap out, I just don't get what I need. And when you go ahead and use that good compost, then the compost, the things that you can do from it at home when you're making your own stuff, you get the benefit of that.
And I know just from talking to you, you are not just all here to sell compost. You're also a big advocate for people to make their own compost. And, one of the reasons you started the companies was sometimes people just can't make enough, or a farm can't make enough. But you're not somebody who's saying, just buy ours. You also want people to make their own.
I want people to be self-sufficient. I want people to be in the soil. I want people to, if they want it, don't get me wrong. If they need compost, I want people to buy Malibu compost. And that's why we work as hard as we do, and we're as diligent as we are, and we're as careful, and we're as conscious as we are about what we're making, and that anybody that buys us, I have a huge level of gratitude to the people that buy our stuff. When I walk into a store, if I walk into, let's say, Walter Anderson's nursery in San Diego, and I see Malibu compost sitting there on a stack, and sitting there on a pallet, I always, to this day, get this overwhelming feeling of like, wow. And it's not about wow, like, wow, Randy, look what you did. Or wow, Randy, you and your guys are just so awesome. It's just, wow, like we're part of something that's bigger than us. And we're getting to, hopefully give a little bit of what we believe to people, so that maybe they can give it to somebody else. And, that's the beauty, I think, of living where we live, is that you can vote with your wallet. You can support companies and people who are doing their best, for you, and I always look at it like I do that. And then the people out there, whatever it is that we've done and Malibu Compost has done, the return that we've gotten is so far greater. And I'm not talking about money. I'm talking about the return of love and of support and of kindness and of community. I could have never guessed this when we started. In a million years, I could have never guessed it.
It's really cool. You never see the ripple effects of the splash that you make sometimes. And that's cool. And thinking of the composting business, I took a PDC. I don't know if you have. One of the things that, like, everybody who comes out of a PDC, like the most common business model that people want to start when it comes to permaculture is they want to start a composting business. And I've talked to a lot of growers who live in areas of the South and the Northeast where they can't find either a local source of compost or a good local source of compost, what advice would you have for somebody who wants to start a local composting business and try and do it better than some of the big soil yards?
Ooh. You got to stay convicted, because I can tell you one thing. When you go up against the big guys, right, you're going up against some multinational global corporations, and they're big, and they don't want you to succeed. And you're going to run into all kinds of pitfalls, and you have to be convicted with what you're doing. You have to have conviction. You have to believe in your heart that what you're doing is the best thing and it's the right course of action. And you can't let people turn you away or, switch your mind. Or, I've had so many people over the 11 years that we've had Malibu Compost say to me, well, why don't you guys do this? Or why don't you guys do that? Or why don't you add, food waste from restaurants into your stuff? And why don't you do that? And it's like, we do what we do, and we do very well. And we don't want to do that because that's not our wheelhouse, And we've had some rough times with weather, governmental control, other companies who, like to see you get hit by a bus, and you have to really, you gotta stand in that pocket. It's kind of like, I don't know if you surf, but but I know a lot of people can see the visualization of surfing. I grew up surfing, and when you surf big waves, or you surf waves that, let's say, are over 10 or 15 feet and they're pretty big, and all of a sudden you're paddling to catch that wave, all of a sudden there's a tug, and you have to go. Like, once you're tugged into that wave, you're either going to stand up and go down that wave and surf that wave, or it's going to suck you over the falls. And if you're over a coral reef or a rock reef or who knows, bad stuff can happen. So you got to commit. So if you're going to start a compost company, you better be prepared to surf a lot of 20-foot waves.
Right. All in.
Today's episode is brought to you by Modern Grower. Modern Grower is the go-to source for 100% organic, GMO-free microgreen seeds. Trusted by hundreds of growers for high quality and low prices. If you're growing microgreens, start saving at shop.moderngrower.co.